Welcome back. We're going to continue working on the fuel cell structure here. If you remember last time, we were talking about welding some of these reinforcement plates on the inside of the frame due to the thin sheet metal that's used for the Colorado frames. I'm going to try to get this evap canister out of the way, starting with the cable, the wiring harness here. I'm not too worried about breaking these tabs off, so I'm gonna try to get that out of the way. This looks like the vent from the fuel tank right here. This one looks like the return back to the engine. Looks like one 13mm bolt there holds the whole thing in. The whole thing should just slide off after that. I'm hoping I can kind of bend these out of the way just to kind of get them loose, just to give me a little bit more access to the frame mill here and here, and that way I'm not welding so close to those lines. I do have a welding blanket, so we'll see how this goes. Here's what I got done today. Got those 11 gauge plates welded to the inside of the frames here and here. It's not the prettiest welds. I'm still learning, but it should hold. Also got the 1 5/8 inch 120 wall DOM tube tacked in here, square to the bumper. I put the truck back on the ground for this just so I could make sure everything was level. I put a couple pieces of wood here on the back just so I could use my long level, make sure everything was all level and square with each other. Okay, this cross piece here is welded in. It's time to start looking at how much of this spare tire holder we need to cut out. So if we do some math here, the fuel cell's 24 inches wide. If we add the 1 5/8 inch tubing on either side and say call it 1/8 on either side for that 11 gauge steel plate that we talked about, we're talking about 27.5 inches of total clearance needed on the back end. Now luckily, looks like between this hole here and this hole pre-existing on the structure, we get about 28.25, maybe a little less. So what the plan will be is scribe a line right on the outside edge of this, and I will cut with a cutoff wheel right on the outside edge of this, and that'll give me a clearance of about 28.25 inches, and that should allow that fuel cell to drop in. It'll clear the shock tower, allow me to plate everything up next to it pretty nicely, then tie in the tube from my support here straight across back to the back bumper here. So that's the plan. So we'll go ahead and scribe it and cut it out. Got the center section of the spare tire holder cut out. I used some cardboard here to create some templates for the reinforcements to go in their place. Got those in there. So I'll go ahead and weld those in here and we'll continue the build. Okay, I apologize. I've been doing a horrible job at filming here. I ended up cutting out the crossbar I had on the reinforcement on the frame, figuring it would probably be easier to put it all together at once and then put it back in the truck. So what I've done here is bent a couple of tubes right here at 60 degrees and welded them to that crossbar, and then I've built a cradle for the fuel cell out of 1.5 inch 120 wall square tube. So got some reinforcement gussets on the four corners just to give that fuel cell a little more support, along with some gussets on the uprights here. So what I'm going to do is flip this upside down and clamp the tubes to the table where I know it'll be square, and then I'll clamp the structure itself down. It's a lot easier to weld that way than it is trying to weld it from the other side there. Okay, got it flipped upside down here. I'm about to weld it to my round tube. It's pretty cold out today, so I'm gonna go ahead and preheat my welds here with this blowtorch, get all the moisture out of it. So here we go. Got the structure flipped back over, threw a coat of weld through primer on it. Here's what it looks like upright. What the plan is to put down some of this neoprene rubber right on the contact surface of the structure where the fuel cell is going to sit. So we'll do that all here. There's 4 holes drilled to attach the fuel cell to the structure itself, along with some fuel straps. It's a little hard to see here, but do have a layer of this 1/8 inch neoprene rubber on the bottom anywhere the aluminum fuel cell is going to contact metal. I'd rather not have it going directly to the steel. Next step here is just to prep these into these tubes on the cross support in the end here for welding to the truck. I removed the muffler from the truck last night just to give me some more room here. Probably just going to straight pipe it for now. No emissions. So I will prep the structure and then get it sitting on a floor jack in here, and I'll show you what that looks like. Got it tacked into the truck. The fuel cell structure clears the rear anti-sway bar by about 1/2 inch. I added some 3/16 inch rod here between the tube and those supports just to fill the gap a little bit, help me weld it a little more. Need to finish weld it, and then what I'll do is I will tie in some supports from here to the bottom of the bumper just to give it a little bit more rigidity from potential rear impact. Alright, there it is. I added 3 little angled brackets at the back there just to tie it into the back. Just got done testing the taillights. Everything seems to work, including reverse. We'll see what happens when I get the bed back on. What I did here was split it off from the original wire loom. I ran the passenger side down the back of the fuel cell structure, and then ran both sides down the frame rails pretty much where they were originally with some replacement clips. So we'll get the bed back on, then we'll punch a hole in it for the fuel cell. I'm keeping the original evap canister for now. Original tank is still in there. I don't have a motor and transmission yet, so I'm gonna wait until I have those things before I make this thing immobile for several months at that point. But I'll show you the bed when it's back on, and then we'll cut a hole in it.